Hello and welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Here's a quick look at what's lined up for you on the show tonight. Our cover story tonight is about an air disaster in Nepal. That's right, there has been another one, and this time 6 people have lost their lives. This was a chopper crash, and it is the latest unfortunate addition to a long list of air disasters that Nepal's skies have witnessed. But the question is, what makes Nepal's skies so dangerous, and why are they so deadly? And in spite of repeated air disasters, why have no lessons been learned at all? As a new probe is ordered after this latest disaster, what about the recommendations from the earlier probes? Is Nepal prioritizing tourism over tourist safety? We discuss this and more. Also on the show for you tonight, we get you the story about China's missing minister. Where is he? Why is he missing? Which are the world's strongest and weakest militaries? And what are their strengths and weaknesses? And where does India feature on that list? For the first time in over a century, US Marines are left without a confirmed leader. We tell you how things reached this point. And in our special segment, Good, Bad and Ugly of Artificial Intelligence, we ask, how much can you really rely on AI? This comes after an e-commerce firm replaced 90% customer care staff with an AI chatbot. This story may sound like a deja vu to you, like the same old repeating itself. But each time a heavy price is paid. Death in the skies of the land of Mount Everest. There's been another air crash in Nepal. That's the second in the matter of just 6 months. A chopper went down earlier this morning in Nepal. There were 6 people on board. All of them have died. 5 of the deceased were tourists, international tourists. They were from Mexico, and they died some 14,000 kilometers away from home. All because Nepal's civil aviation just will not get its act together. And because safety seems too tall an ask in Nepal. The chopper that crashed, by the way, was run by a company called Manang Air. It had picked up the tourists from Surkhe Airport. This is where it is located. Let's tell you with the help of a map. Surkhe is near the point from where most Mount Everest expeditions start. The Mexican tourists had visited this point and they were returning to Kathmandu. The chopper departed at 10:04 a.m. local time. At 10:13, it stopped communicating with the air traffic control. No one knew where the helicopter had flown. It was missing. And a couple of hours later, the chopper's wreckage was spotted somewhere here, in a place called Lamjura. It is located in Nepal's Solukhumbu district. Lamjura is a mountainous area, like much of Nepal. And locals say they heard a loud explosion, and soon there was a fire. On approaching the site, the locals realized that a chopper had crashed. I wonder if they were even surprised, because air crashes like these have become so normal in Nepal, unfortunately. On the 15th of January, a Yeti Airlines plane crashed while landing at Pokhara. There were 72 people on board. All of them lost their lives. It is the 11th of July, and Nepal's Prime Minister is once again expressing his grief over yet another air crash. Once again, an investigation has been ordered. It's a drill far too familiar, and this is exactly how the story plays out every single time. There is an air crash, people lose their lives, and the government expresses its grief. A probe is ordered, and then there is another air crash. This déjà vu, this loop, will just not stop. Some of you may be wondering why. The rest of you who watch this show regularly already know the answer. Nepal's skies are the world's most dangerous, and the blame, by the way, does not go to the country's topography or the weather alone. You see, the culprit here is also indifference, the criminal lack of accountability. The government of Nepal appears to have entered a rather cozy relationship with the airlines, where it overlooks loopholes as long as the airlines manage to fly tourists to popular destinations, like Pokhran, where the Yeti airline crashed, or near the Everest, where this chopper went down. The government is concerned about the tourism revenue and the economy. Our reporter in Nepal tells us that a visit by a single tourist creates 10 employment opportunities in Nepal. But what about the safety of that tourist? The one creating that employment opportunity and bringing in those dollars. The government seems to have decided to risk their safety. How else do you explain the repeated plane crashes in Nepal? Sure, the topography is tough, but what's stopping Nepal from training its pilots in navigating the hurdles safely? Or for that matter, updating its fleet? A lot of the aircraft operating in Nepal are ancient. They don't even have modern radar. Sure, the weather is unpredictable, but what's stopping Nepal from ensuring that the air traffic control is equipped with up-to-date weather forecast? You know, if there is low visibility, then halt flight and chopper services till the skies clear up. But this is too much to ask of Nepal, where the Civil Aviation Authority is also an aviation service provider. You heard that right. CAAN, CAN, is the epitome of conflict of interest. It runs 2 international airports, the one in Kathmandu and the one in Bhairahava. As a service provider, it is responsible for ensuring safe operations in the airport, and as a civil aviation authority, it is also the body that is supposed to pull up airports in case that safety is compromised. And this irony is deadly and has been deadly. Nepal has seen 69 air mishaps since 1955. That's 69 accidents in 68 years, almost one every year. There have been 2 in 2023 already, and we are just halfway through the year. And what do these numbers and these incidents really mean for you? What does this story tell you? If you love traveling, should Nepal ever be on your bucket list? 1.2 million foreign tourists visited Nepal in the year 2019. In 2022, when the world slowly started recovering from the Wuhan virus, over 600,000 international tourists traveled to Nepal. And this year, the number is expected to jump substantially. You see, Nepal is leveraging the post-pandemic revenge travel and people's renewed realization of how unexpected life is. Look around you. There is a renewed energy to travel. Explore the world before it's time to leave it. Nepal is home to the world's highest peak, the Mount Everest. There are many who want to climb it. There are some who would at least like a glimpse of it. And so they head to Nepal. And this year, Nepal has issued 454 permits for climbing the Everest in spring alone. It does not care that 11 people died in 2019 because of overpopulation at the Everest, or about congestion and jams on the way to the summit. Money is what it wants, clearly. Money from the climbers, from the globetrotters. But tell me one thing, is your life so life worth so little that you are willingly risking it by flying in Nepal's dangerous skies? Nepal is always a mayday away from another air disaster. The government has clearly made up its mind to look the other way. And now it's your turn to decide whether or not you want to be one of Nepal's many victims. Let me now introduce you to China's most wanted man. His name is King Yang. You must have seen him. He's China's foreign minister, and he is missing in action. He has not been seen in 2 weeks. What exactly happened? The minister was supposed to go to Indonesia this week to attend ASEAN meetings, but he's not going. Wang Yi, his predecessor, will be filling in. Now, this is not his first prominent absence from an international engagement. Last week, King was supposed to meet European Union's foreign policy chief, Josep Borrell, but the meeting was cancelled last minute. And by last minute, I mean just 48 hours before Borrell was supposed to fly to China. Obviously, Borrell's office had to give a legit explanation for this, and Beijing had the vaguest possible reason. It told the EU that the dates were no longer possible. Basically, on the lines of Kin's calendar is full. But the question is, with what? What was it that Kin was so caught up with that he had to cancel a high-level scheduled meeting? No one knows, and there is no way to find out, because this is China we are talking about. For all you know, Xi Jinping's men could have gone after him. Kin was last seen in public on the 25th of June, and that day he had met officials from Sri Lanka, Russia, and Vietnam. And ever since, he has gone missing. No public appearances, no announcements. What do Xi Jinping's men have to say? For the longest time, they were silent. The foreign ministry was asked about Kin's whereabouts. It chose to not respond. And last Friday, one reporter asked the foreign ministry spokesperson where the minister was and whether there was any truth, the speculations on an American website that Kin's health had taken a hit. The spokesperson said he had not heard about the report. What about Kin's health? If your boss is not coming to work, you will surely try to find out what really happened, right? Not unless there is something amiss. Kin's disappearance and China's silence soon made global headlines, and today it's all over the papers. China has been forced to open its mouth, but it's not saying much. It is once again using vague words. The same foreign ministry spokesperson now wants you to believe that the Chinese foreign minister is missing because of health reasons. Listen to this.
State Councillor and Foreign Minister Kin Gang cannot attend this ASEAN ministerial meeting because of health reasons.
And exactly what health reasons? China is not getting into any specifics, which is what is making this case all the more curious. China's silence and its notorious history. And let's not forget that this is a country where anyone and everyone can disappear. You can be a top actor, someone who has starred in Hollywood X-Men movies, and China can remove you from public life overnight. Just ask Fan Bingbing. You can even be serving Interpol chief. China will not think twice before picking you up and locking you up in an undisclosed location. Ask Meng Hongwei. In 2018, Meng vanished on a trip to China. Vanished. His family had no clue where he was. Meng was not reachable on the phone. The last text he had sent to his wife was of a knife emoji. The one before that read, "Wait for my call." But for 12 long days, 12 days, there was no call. And later, it was revealed that China got to Meng. He was picked up by Xi Jinping's men for quote-unquote violation of law. This is classic China. And this is how Xi Jinping showcases his power to the world and tells those within China that his regime is corruption-free and unafraid to go after those who are suspected of corruption, irrespective of their stature. So is Qin Xi Jinping's latest victim? China's foreign minister. He is 57 years old. Qin is a career diplomat. He joined the services in Beijing in his early 20s. He had 3 stints in the UK. In the year 2021, China sent him to Washington as its ambassador. This was a few months after the US President Joe Biden took office. And within a year, he was called back. He was to replace Wang Yi as China's foreign minister. Also, by the way, one of the youngest ever to hold that office. The word is that Qin is one of Xi Jinping's most trusted allies. So what are the chances that the relation has gone sour now? Or did something from Qin's past catch up with him? Perhaps some deal that he struck in Washington or some kickback that he received? One thing is for sure, there is something that's cooking in Washington. You see, less than 24 hours ago, America charges the head of a US think tank with acting as a Chinese agent. This man, his name is Gal Luft. He is a joint US and Israeli citizen, accused of helping Chinese companies sell anti-tank launchers, grenade launchers, and other arms to Libya. And this man is the co-director of the Institute for the Analysis of Global Security. It is based outside Washington, D.C. Luft was arrested in Cyprus in February, but he fled. And now you have charges drawn up against him. Are these two stories linked? Is Luft indeed a Chinese agent? Did he or did he not meet Qin in Washington? Or does Qin's disappearance have to do with something completely different? You know, a reason that does not involve health, and a reason we may never really know. Until then, if you happen to spot this missing person, do let us know. In September 2022, Taiwan's multinational electronics maker Foxconn signed a $19.5 billion deal with India's Vedanta group. The deal was to set up a semiconductor and display production plant in Gujarat. And less than a year on, this deal has been called off. Why? What were the reasons? Was this a mutual decision? What exactly is the backstory? What really happened? Over the next few minutes, we shall discuss this. Let me start off with Foxconn's decision. This is what the group has said in a statement. Let me quote from it. Foxconn has determined it will not move forward on the joint venture with Vedanta. Foxconn is working towards submitting an application related to modified program for semiconductors and display ecosystem. We have been actively reviewing the landscape for optimal partners. Foxconn is working to remove the Foxconn name from what now is a fully owned entity of Vedanta. So, was this decision mutual is the immediate question that arises. Yes, says Foxconn. It says the two sides have mutually made a call to end the joint venture. Last we checked, Vedanta was yet to respond to this statement. Now, many are calling this a blow to India, but is it? Not really. Foxconn says it remains committed to India, that it will still utilize India's chip-making incentive scheme, meaning that it will continue to be in India, just that it will be finding other partners. The center also has made it absolutely clear that the move will have no impact on India's plans. It has further added that the company remains a valued investor in the country. All said and done, what exactly led to the deal being called off? Well, the answer is Vedanta's financial situation. You see, the group's London-based parent company, Vedanta Resources, has been plagued by a surging debt pile. It still has to repay debt worth $2.2 billion in this financial year, which started on the 1st of April. And this debt, by the way, also includes total principal requirements of $1.3 billion, along with interest or intercompany loans. And a big chunk of this $1.3 billion is a $1 billion bond that is due in January next year. What is Vedanta doing to resolve this debt crisis then? Well, the conglomerate is largely relying on brand monetization, refinancing, and transfer of general reserves to retained earnings to meet its repayment timelines. But giving it a hard time further are ratings agencies. They have downgraded the company this year amid concerns about risks of a debt default, but the group remains optimistic. Its chairman, Anil Agrawal, has said that there have been no defaults on debts from the group. And that's not all. The Vedanta Group also is pursuing other partners. Let me quote from its official statement. We have lined up other partners to set up India's first foundry. We still continue to grow our semiconductor team, and we have the license for production-grade technology from a prominent integrated device manufacturer. In the year 2017, it signed a deal to build a factory in North America, the state of Wisconsin to be precise. This deal was supposed to bring 13,000 manufacturing jobs to the US, 13,000. The facility was supposed to be so big that the US president called it the eighth wonder of the world. But this never happened. The plan did not transpire due to uncertain reasons. And it does not end there. Foxconn is currently being sued in the US by ailing EV automaker Lordstown Motors. Why? Well, due to consistent failure to live up to its commercial and financial commitments. At least that is what Lordstown Motors is saying. So, in a way, both the companies who signed this deal are facing their own respective challenges. And this pretty much explains why the deal may have collapsed. Which are the world's strongest military forces? Tonight, we have the answer to that question. A study by a statistical defense-related website, Global Firepower, has said that the US has the strongest military force. India continues to hold the 4th spot in the top 5 list. The UK has climbed from the 8th to the 5th position this year, but some critics are questioning Russia's hold onto the 2nd position. Which countries have the weakest military power, and what really are the factors while judging the military power of a country? Our next report getting you all the answers.
The Global Firepower Index releases the military strength of several nations each year. A list with 145 countries tells you which are the world's strongest and the weakest military forces. The military strength is assessed on the basis of 60 categories. The categories range from the strength of a military unit to the logistic capabilities. So, which nations are considered to have the strongest forces? The United States tops the list. Russia is on the 2nd spot, then comes China, India, the United Kingdom, South Korea, Pakistan, Japan, France, and Italy is at the 10th position. What is the basis on which these forces are assessed? What are the main criteria? The first priority is studying the military forces' personnel. The manpower includes active personnel, reserve force and other paramilitary forces identified for the nation. Next comes the air power of the forces. The study counts aerial systems including trainers and drones. Land power includes all the motorized and mechanized vehicular elements. The study includes towed artillery and mechanized multiple launch rocket systems. Naval power is also an important category. Most of the military's commissioned hulls are assessed. This can range from blue water warships to brown water patrol assets. The financial assessment is crucial. The study focuses on the military's average current financial health. All the countries are assessed out of a score of 160 in each category. How much did the US score to top the list? Out of a score of 160, America's manpower got over 117, 144 for air power, over 138 for land power, over 120 for naval power, and over 110 for financials. So what has changed from last year? The top 4 nations have retained their positions on the list. We're talking about the US, Russia, China and India. The UK, which was earlier on the 8th position, has now climbed to the top 5. India's neighbour Pakistan has climbed into the top 10 in the 7th place. Japan and France dropped ranks and are in the 8th and 9th position. Which nations are at the bottom of the list? Out of the total of 145 countries, Bhutan, Benin, Moldova, Somalia, Liberia, Suriname, Belize, Central African Republic, Iceland and Sierra Leone have the least powerful militaries. Experts have validated India's strong position on the list. Meanwhile, critics are questioning the Russian army's inability to overcome the Ukrainian forces and still being considered as one of the best military forces. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Our next story is about the Taliban's new war. Don't worry, it's not about fighting a state or a terror outfit. It's waging a war on drugs and winning it. I'm not saying this, satellite images are. According to Geographic Information Platform, ALCIS, ALCIS, there has been an unprecedented reduction of opium production in Afghanistan. The images show a staggering 99% reduction of poppy growing in the main cultivation areas. And the biggest fall has been in the Helmand province, which is the largest of Afghanistan's 34 provinces. Imagery from Helmand showing that poppy cultivation is down to less than 1,000 hectares. And this is a huge fall. Last year, poppy cultivation covered over 129,000 hectares over here. And if we break it down further, in 2021, poppy cultivation occupied 32.8% of Helmand's agricultural land by crop. In 2022, the figure rose further to 51.9%. And in the year 2023, it has fallen to an abysmal 48.1%. Now, here's the thing. For all its regressive policies and laws, the Taliban appear to have been really successful in cracking down on poppy cultivation than most countries have been, because this fall is not limited to one province. It has also slipped drastically in provinces like Nangarhar and Kandahar. This is a turn of events no one expected. When the Taliban came to power in 2021, few expected its relationship with opium to change much. Even when the Taliban's supreme leader announced a ban on opium, few thought that it would be enforceable. That's because opium did a lot for the Taliban, not just financially, but politically as well. When the Americans invaded Afghanistan, they tried to end poppy cultivation. But its eradication campaign, which ran from 2002 to 2017, was deeply unpopular. This was because the trade employed nearly 500,000 Afghans. And this is thought to have led to many mass defections to the Taliban in that period. So no one ever thought that the Taliban would be taking such drastic measures against poppy cultivation. You see, there was a time when Afghanistan used to produce more than 80% of the world's opium, 80%, and heroin made from Afghan opium made up 95% of the market in Europe. things changed in April 2022. That is when the Taliban supreme leader, Hebatullah Akhundzada, decreed that cultivation of poppy, from which opium, the key ingredient for the drug heroin, can be extracted, was strictly prohibited. Not just that, he added that anyone violating the ban would have their field destroyed and be penalized according to the Sharia law. The Taliban said that they have imposed the ban because of the harmful effects of opium, which is taken from the poppy seed capsules. Also because it goes against their religious beliefs. It's ironic how these religious beliefs were completely ignored earlier and now are being upheld. Whatever be the case, this development works in the favor of India at least. You see, India is placed between two drug smuggling routes, Afghanistan being the major one. So the drop in opium production is expected to have some positive consequences for the country. And what about Pakistan? Well, there will not be many positive consequences in Pakistan's case, and that is mainly because Pakistan plays a crucial role in trafficking Afghan opium into India. And it's also a major source of revenue for terror outfits in the country. As opium cultivation in Afghanistan falls, so will their revenues and the ability to traffic drugs into India. And that said, the big question for the Taliban is, for how long will they be able to continue their enforcement against poppy cultivation? BBC finds itself in yet another scandal, and one of its top presenters has been accused of paying a minor for explicit photos. The journalist allegedly paid some $45,000 for the photos. The minor is now 20 years old, but at the time of the alleged first payment, they were only 17. So what is the story? Let's just take a closer look and break it down for you. The scandal first came to light in a report by The Sun. It said the teenager's mother spoke up anonymously. She said she saw the BBC presenter's photo in her child's phone. He was sitting on a sofa in his underpants, leaning forward as if getting ready for the teen to perform for him. The mother claims her child used that money to buy drugs and now is addicted to cocaine. She also said that she loved watching the presenter on air. Little did she know the man was taking advantage of her child. She said, and I'm quoting, "I blame this BBC man for destroying my child's life." The mother says she had filed a complaint with the BBC back in May. The case remained open, but nothing much came out. Neither The Sun nor the BBC have really revealed who the journalist is. But moments after the fiasco made headlines, a guessing game started. People started taking names. BBC A-lister started coming out to clear the air one by one, denying the claims. Gary Lineker said it wasn't him. So did Nikki Campbell, Rallen Clark, and Jeremy Vine also followed suit. You see, the scandal is also causing an internal rift. Dozens of the BBC's hosts are paid six-figure salaries. Some do not have shows on air at the moment, and this is leading to a lot of name-calling, and other anchors are not happy about it. BBC's special correspondent Lucy Manning said, and I'm quoting, "The BBC will need to answer if it's fair to other presenters unconnected to this that their names are now sort of in the headlines." The broadcaster says it has suspended the presenter, but without identifying him. It is avidly reporting on the scandal, but it is notably leaving out the names of the journalist and the minor, who is now an adult, by the way. The Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has expressed concern over the incident, and the British police are also looking into the allegations. Pressure, meanwhile, is mounting on BBC to reveal what it knows, to which the Director General has said, Tim Davie, saying that the broadcaster will pass on any material to the police. What does the 20-year-old have to say about all this? BBC says it received a letter from the youngster's lawyer saying, for the avoidance of doubt, nothing inappropriate or unlawful has taken place between our client and the BBC personality, and the allegations reported in the Sun newspaper are rubbish. This is clearly at odds with the mother's claims. Where is this coming from? Reports are claiming that the presenter made panicked phone calls to the youngster, that he is trying to put pressure on them to get their mother to stop the investigation. After learning about the lawyer's statement, the mother said, and I'm quoting, "It is sad, but we stand by our account and we hope they get the help they need. We did this to help, and the presenter has got into their head. How did they afford a lawyer?" If the allegations are true, if the presenter did obtain sexually explicit images of the young person when they were under 18 years old, he will be investigated for possible criminal offence. The age of consent is 16 in the UK, but a person under the age of 18 is not an adult. The law says they cannot give consent to taking part in quote-unquote indecent photographs. It could be considered as child pornography. And BBC is caught in a whirlwind. It is protecting its presenter. Other hosts are demanding accountability. The waters seem muddied, but we will get you more details as the story unfolds. The NATO summit is underway in Lithuania, and the French president has come bearing gifts for Ukraine. He has promised long-range cruise missiles, something that Ukraine has been demanding for months now. The US, Ukraine's main arms provider, has not yet agreed to supply them. Britain has agreed to send them back in May. Now France is also joining in. So what really is so special about these missiles, and how will they help Ukraine in its counter-offensive? France has promised to send Scalp missiles. How many of them? Macron declined to comment, but sources say as many as 50. These missiles are produced by European manufacturer MBDA. They have a range of around 250 kilometers. This is 3 times Ukraine's existing missile capacities. The missiles are reportedly being integrated into Ukrainian Russian-made warplanes. And who would be bearing the cost? The French military. The missiles would come from existing French military stocks. Once Ukraine gets its hands on the missiles, it will be able to strike deep into Russian lines, something that has been happening since its counteroffensive started. Do I need to remind you about the attacks on Moscow? It is also something the US does not stand by. So would the missiles be an escalation? Not according to the French. Macron has justified that the missiles are strictly meant for defense. And Ukraine also has reassured it will not fire them into Russia. How else will Ukraine use long-range missiles then? One of the French military sources claiming the long-range missiles would only balance things out, given that Russia itself has been using cruise missiles hitting well beyond Ukrainian front lines. Paris, by the way, has previously supplied Mistral shoulder-launched anti-aircraft missiles to Ukraine. It also sent the Crotel short-range anti-air missiles. And these weapons are capable of intercepting low-flying missiles and aircraft. After demands from Kiev, it has promised long-range missiles. And what purpose exactly will they serve? We have told you this before. Ukraine's wish list is never-ending. The counter-offensive is progressing at a disappointing pace, but weapons are getting burnt at breakneck speed. Back in March, Germany sent 18 cutting-edge Leopard 2 tanks. The German army spent weeks training Ukrainian tank crews to use them, but within months, reports emerged that 6 of them had been destroyed. Figures reported by Russia were even higher. Some were blown up, while others were abandoned. Germany was shocked by the casualties. And despite this, Ukraine demanded more. The West may be pulling together everything to support Ukraine, but somehow it always falls short of Kiev's expectations. NATO members are now gathering in Lithuania. A full membership for Ukraine is under question. NATO members agree that it cannot join the NATO while a war rages on in the country, but decisions will surely be taken in the country's favor. In fact, Germany has already offered military aid worth over $760 million to Ukraine. The G7 is planning a security deal. There will be more aid, more weapons, more support. But is the NATO just giving Ukraine a comfort blanket? Whatever it is, it's not enough for the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. In fact, he has hit out at NATO. Before joining the summit as a special guest, he took to Telegram to say, I'm quoting, "It is unprecedented and absurd when a time frame is not set, neither for the invitation nor for Ukraine's membership." You see, Ukraine is never satisfied. It always wants more. Let's now shift focus to the United States. The U.S. Marine Corps left without a confirmed leader for the first time in over 150 years. How exactly did things reach this point? All because of a Republican senator, Tommy Tuberville. The senator who supports the anti-abortion law is staging a blockade against the Pentagon's abortion policies. Tuberville has delayed over 200 high-level Pentagon nominations. The Pentagon says that it could reach 650 by the end of this year. Our next report getting you the complete story.
For the first time in 150 years, the U.S. Marine Corps is without a confirmed leader. But why? This is how things have reached this point. Ex-Commandant General David H. Berger stepped down. At this stage, the Senate elects a nominee to succeed the earlier commandant. But the vacancy comes amid a blockade staged by Republican Senator Tommy Tuberville. Tuberville has launched a campaign against Pentagon's new abortion policy. What's the policy? Pentagon's policy, which was enacted after the reversal of Roe Vs Wade, covers the traveling cost for their service members or their spouses if they need to leave their state to access abortion care. The Senate generally confirms nominees by unanimous consent, but a single senator's objection forces a floor vote. Tuberville has objected to over 200 high-level nominations. Officials say the task of approving the nominations via a floor vote could take months. The White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre has said, what the senator is doing by holding these nominations, it's a threat to our national security, period. That's what he's doing. The United States Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin has urged the Senate to act on the situation. He says, and I quote, "Our military families give up so much to support those who serve the country, so they shouldn't be weighed down with any extra uncertainty. We have a sacred duty to do right by those who volunteer to wear the cloth of our nation." Unquote. On the other hand, Tuberville says that his protest is not affecting those who actually fight. It only affects those at the top positions. But the question is, what is a ship without a captain? The Pentagon has defended its abortion policy. It says that the policy provides service members to get reproductive care, a service which is no longer available to them in specific states. Until the Senate approves a leader for the United States Marine Corps, Assistant Commandant General Eric Smith has been put as the acting leader. Since he is not confirmed by the Senate, Smith can't issue any formal commandant's planning guidance. He also can't move into the main commandant's office. Tuberville has left hundreds of high-level positions powerless. It's been a year since the reversal of the Roe vs Wade case, but the anti-abortion law, which President Biden called a tragic error, continues to remain in the spotlight. The protest by Tuberville has left the United States Marine Corps without a leader. This is the state of affairs in the United States of America. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Our next story is about artificial intelligence, and brace yourselves to hear a lot more of these two words in times to come, because AI is clearly here to stay and it's already impacting our lives in more ways than one, some good, some bad, and some ugly. But there is no getting away from it, that's clear. Tonight, I get you three stories that serve as a reminder of the growing impact that AI is having on our lives. The first one is about an e-commerce firm which has been making headlines. It's called Dukaan. That's what you call a shop in Hindi. No, Dukaan is not shutting shop, but it is doing something extraordinary. It has replaced 90% of its customer care staff with an AI chatbot. You heard that right, 90%. The founder and CEO of the firm, Sumit Shah, is facing anger quite naturally. After he made that announcement, his move brings to life that nightmare that we have been talking about. You know, the ways in which AI will impact our lives and snatch away livelihoods. What's the CEO saying? He's justifying the decision, citing the aim, which is to achieve profitability. He also talked about how the response times decreased. By how much? From more than 2 hours to 3 minutes, he says. He also said that costs linked to customer support got reduced by 85%. He tweeted saying, "We had to lay off 90% of our support team because of this AI chatbot. Tough, yes. Necessary, absolutely." And there were angry reactions. There are questions also swirling around, naturally, like what about AI replacing businesses itself? Are we now heading into an era of talking to machines? And where do things go from here? Where do we draw the line? And is it even fair to compare what a human customer response official can do for you with the response of a chatbot? Do we not sometimes desperately wait on the other end of the line to speak to a real person to get our product or service-related grievances sorted out? How much can you really rely on AI? And how much is too much? On the long list of things that AI can do, by the way, there is one thing it has emerged that it cannot help you with, which is picking a stock portfolio. Well, they can, but not with the same level of expertise as a rescue dog. That is what an experiment in Germany has revealed. An 8-year-old Maltese cross selected shares and beat the suggestions given by ChatGPT. By how much? The dog got almost 4 times the returns as compared to the AI chatbot. This was over 6 weeks. But the fact is, AI is making its presence felt in newer ways with each passing day. And that brings me to the point about regulating artificial intelligence. You know, basically the need to put in place some guardrails. But how exactly? And in what form? You know what's happening in the United States? US senators will be briefed by the White House on artificial intelligence. This will be in a classified setting, by the way. Lawmakers are considering adopting legislative safeguards for AI. The first ever classified Senate briefing on AI. The briefing will basically show how the US government is using and investing in AI to protect the national security and learn what the adversaries are doing in AI. Basically translate these ideas into legislative action. That is how seriously America is taking the AI threat. And of course, it's not just the US. Countries around the world, governments are considering how to mitigate the dangers of the emerging technology. You know what an advisor to the UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak warned earlier? Artificial intelligence systems are on track to become powerful enough to kill humans within just 2 years. Kill many humans within 2 years. So clearly it is time to act. How is the question? With that, it's a wrap on this edition of Gravitas tonight. We are leaving you with Gravitas images. Thanks very much for watching.
Nepal.